Morning. I want to start by wishing you all a very happy Easter. Although we can't gather in church to celebrate this most important festival of the year, it's good to know that Christians have survived far worse than the coronavirus over the years and that our faith is alive and well. I have really enjoyed looking at the end of Hebrews over this last couple of weeks in the morning Bible studies, and I want to use a verse from Hebrews 11 verse 1. Now faith is confidence in what we hope for and assurance about what we do not see. My theme this morning is seeing and believing. What is faith? A woman who was a missionary in a Middle Eastern country was on a journey when her car ran out of petrol. Remembering she had seen a petrol station a mile or so back, she searched the car to find some receptacle in which she could put petrol. All she could find was a child's potty, which happened to be in the car. She walked to the petrol station, walked back to her car with the petrol in the potty, and started filling the petrol tank. At this point, a large car drew up beside her, and a window wound down, and a man leaned out the window and said to her, "Lady, I don't share your religion, but I do admire your faith, thinking your car can run on the contents of that potty." What is faith? Faith in Jesus is not blind faith. It's a faith that stands up because it's based on evidence, history, and experience. Let me ask you a question. How do we know anything exists? Because we see it, we touch it, we hear it, we experience it in some way, or because we believe someone has experienced it and we believe them. In our current situation with the coronavirus and the lockdown, we can't see people that we would like to see. Who is it you can't see at the moment? Is it your grandchildren, grown-up children, parents, brothers, sisters, friends? It's hard not to be able to see the people who we love. My mum often comes to lunch on a Sunday. I haven't seen her. She's on her own in the house. A friend, mother is in a care home which is completely locked down. And a couple we know shared with us recently that their daughters had a baby son. And they can't see that baby son. They can't go and visit him. But they do believe that he exists, that he was born, and that he's alive and well. Fancy how amazing it is that they could go to the house and wave to him through the window. That was just an excitement for them, which normally would not be regarded as an excitement. However, with all this amazing technology, we are able to see each other on screens, just as you can see me on the screen this morning. I hadn't heard of Zoom 3 weeks ago, and now we are doing meetings and Zoom services and all sorts of meetups with my family and so on Zoom. Before that, some of us had used Skype or FaceTime or WhatsApp video calls so we could see each other face to face on screens. And many of you are also familiar with Teams, Slack and other things which enable us to work with people on the other side of the world just as easily as in this country. I talked to somebody the other day who had set up a product fair, conference type thing for 6,000 people worldwide. Somehow seeing someone's face on a screen makes a big difference. I remember a number of years ago when our eldest son was travelling in the Far East and we hadn't heard from him for a while. And then he Skyped us and we could see his face, and as soon as I saw his face I was happy because I knew that he was okay. It makes such a difference when you can see someone. We believe what we can see, but do we only believe what we can see? Does faith go beyond seeing? In the Gospel reading we've just heard, the angel appeared and told the two Marys that Jesus was alive. Come and see the place where he was laid. He's not here. Go and tell the disciples that Jesus is alive, the angel said. And based on what the angel said, the women went. And then suddenly Jesus appeared and met with them. Then they saw him, and they really knew that he was alive. They ran and shared the message excitedly with the disciples, who passed the message on to other people, who passed the message on. For centuries, Christians have believed in the death and resurrection of Jesus. When Johnny and I went to Jerusalem in January, we looked at the city of Jerusalem from the Mount of Olives, and there's a hill that goes down and then up the other side, and you can see Jerusalem on the hill. I had a very moving experience from looking at that view. You could see the hill that we were on, where Jesus had gone down on the donkey and then gone up into Jerusalem on Palm Sunday. Still from the top of the hill, the guide was pointing out biblical landmarks that we know so well. The place where the temple would have been, dominating the city. The Garden of Gethsemane at the bottom of the hill. The house of Caiaphas, the high priest, where Jesus was taken when he was arrested. The Praetorium, where he was imprisoned and on trial before Pilate. You may well ask, how do we know this is where all these things happened? Well, on these sites in the 1st century, a memorial was placed by the Christians to mark the spot. And then the Romans came along and destroyed those places, but put temples on the same spot. And then later, when Constantine became a Christian, his mother came and built churches on all these sites. And then later on, the churches were torn down and replaced by mosques. Now on this site stands a mosque or a church, or both. As I stood on the hill looking across at Jerusalem, I got such a sense of history, of people who had prayed and worshipped, been arrested and killed for their faith as Christians. Nobody had to convince me that it was real. The evidence was there before me. And every time our Palestinian Christian guide said, "We Christians believe," that weight of history in suffering was behind his words. We stand on the witness of centuries of Christians who stand on the witness of those first Christians. What made those first Christians so sure of that first Easter? As we read those passages just now, 3 events stand out for me. Death, resurrection, and evidence, which you could call seeing and telling. Evidence and witness. So death, resurrection, seeing and telling. Jesus was crucified on the Friday, then there came the Sabbath, a day of rest. But early on Sunday morning, a group of women disciples went to Jesus' tomb to anoint his body with the burial spices because they respected him. There was an earthquake and an angel rolled away the stone from the tomb. Notice at this point, although they can see the tomb is empty, they do not understand or believe. Here's a quote from Matthew's Gospel. The angel said to the women, "Do not be afraid, for I know that you are looking for Jesus who was crucified, died. He is not here, he has risen." Number 2, resurrection. Just as he said, "Come and see the place where he lay. Then go and quickly tell his disciples, he has risen from the dead and is going ahead of you into Galilee. There you will see him." Death, resurrection, see and tell. Jesus died and rose again, and then he met with the disciples, and they saw him. They saw and believed, and they told the other disciples. My faith stands on their testimony, the evidence they shared, as well as my own experience of the risen Jesus living in me. In the Acts reading, this is several months after Jesus' resurrection, Peter has a vision calling him to the home of a Roman centurion called Cornelius, who has also had a vision from God, and now God has got them together. Peter finds himself telling Cornelius and all of his household about Jesus, whom he knew personally and had seen dying. He says, they killed him by hanging him on a cross. Here we go, crucifixion. But God raised him from the dead, resurrection, on the third day and caused him to be seen. Here we go, seeing. He wasn't seen by all the people, but by witnesses whom God had already chosen, by us who ate and drank with him after he rose from the dead. Death, resurrection, evidence, seeing and telling. My faith stands on Peter's testimony, the evidence that he and others shared, as well as my own experience of the risen Jesus living in me. As we search for meaning and hope amidst this global pandemic, we want something real. We need something real, not something which is going to let us down. Our car won't run on the normal contents of a potty. Our world has been turned upside down. We trusted in our jobs, financial security, fitness and health. We expected to have schools for our children, any food we want to eat in the shops, to be able to enjoy leisure activities, travelling, seeing friends and family and shopping. But now we can't do any of those things. We've lost control. These things have let us down. What massive changes we've seen in the last month. As I talk to people about how they're doing amid this crisis, they might start by telling me how difficult things are and the things that make life hard for them at the moment. But normally if they keep on talking, they'll have found something good in the situation. When all the usual stuff is stripped away, what really matters is left. Our family and friends. The health we do still enjoy. It may be sitting around the table eating a meal with the family, which we don't normally get to do. When all this is stripped away, God remains. Faith in a God who has cared for his people throughout the centuries and has the keys of death in his hands. Our Easter publicity says, life wins. Death has been defeated. I think death is staring us in the face as a society more than ever since the Second World War. Death is coming to people we know. But Christ died and was raised to life and was seen by reliable witnesses, our brothers and sisters. This is the basis for our hope. We can also check out the facts, the evidence for the resurrection of Jesus. There are books, there's the Alpha Course. Our faith is based on evidence. Faith overcomes fear, and I know that many people are gripped by fear at this time. Jesus gives us hope today and into the forever, whenever that day comes for us. I'm not afraid of death because I know where I'm going. And Caroline often says, it's who you know and who you love that matters, and that's Jesus. And I know that Jesus lives in me today. My heart tells me that he's alive. He's here with me, he hears my prayers, and I feel the prayers of others. One of the members of our church who has suffered with the COVID-19 virus said she wasn't afraid. She was aware of people praying for her during the time when she had that virus, when she was sick. And it was the prayers of others that got her through, she said. She felt the care of God and the power of our prayers. Do not be afraid, the angel said to the women. Do not be afraid, the resurrected Jesus said to his disciples. We are not a people who shrink in fear. Faith overcomes fear. Jesus has conquered death, and we are more than conquerors through Jesus Christ who loves us. If we have faith, it changes the way we live. Faith that goes beyond what we can see. Let's return to that verse from Hebrews chapter 11, verse 1. Faith is confidence in what we hope for and assurance about what we do not see. We can say, together with a father in the Bible, whose son Jesus healed, I believe, help my unbelief. Somebody has said, hope is the music of tomorrow. I like that. Hope is the music of tomorrow. But faith is to dance to that music today. Faith makes a difference to how we live today. May I wish you a very happy Easter, and I hope that we can live as resurrection people and bring hope and life to the people around us in these dark times. Let's pray. Heavenly Father, thank you that even in these times, you are Lord. Thank you that you sent Jesus to conquer death, to come through the other side and to open up the way to life and forgiveness in you. Thank you that that is there for us to grasp whenever we want it. And I pray that you would fill us with hope and with faith. Faith that goes beyond what we can see. And may we be a light and a life and encouragement and a hope to those around us in these dark times. Amen.